Our next speaker is a retired chief engineer licensed in the U.S. Merchant Marine. Today he is sharing a story based on his first entry in his engine log. This takes us back to his early days at sea, to a time when ineptitude, impossible working conditions, and unexpected mentorship collided off the northern coast of North Africa. Please welcome John Durrant with Off the Coast of Morocco, a story of mentorship at sea.
Thank you, Silka. They say that war brings out the best and the worst of people. And I can't see how that is anything but absolutely true. I think other stressful situations are similar, not as extreme, but they're similar. Imagine flying across the country and carrying your duffel bag up a steep gangplank to a ship that you've never been on before, with a crew of people you've never met before, and being expected to work 60, 80, 90 or 100 hours a week. Additionally, as an engineer, you're charged with working down in the bowels of the ship, where you have all the engine equipment, the oil heaters, the engines, fans and ventilations, all of it producing heat and noise. And the port of call for this ship is upriver, up the Mississippi River. It's the middle of summer. The ambient temperature is high 90s with high 90s of humidity, adding another 20 degrees of heat from the engines. First day, I go down to report, and I stood the noon watch, noon to 4, and I figured, well, I'll be smart, I'll be clever. I'll get started on the engine log an hour and a half before the end of my watch. That way I'll be able to figure out what everything means and fill it out properly. The problem was, it was the first of the month. And so it's a new logbook. There were no log entries from the day before. And the log period started at noontime. So there are no log entries from that morning. And my assistant, the oiler, he's a coon ass. It's local talk from a Cajun just off the swamps and bayous. He'd never been on the ship before, and he didn't know the significant numbers. When you go into port, you only track a third of the normal numbers you track when you're out at sea. I had no idea. It's my first ship. I had no idea which ones, trying to figure everything out. It took me an extra 4 hours to fill it out. I didn't finish up until 8 o'clock that night, which was double the amount of time that I was required to be in the engine room. That gives you a feel for my ineptitude and all my responsibilities. I had been through the academy, 4 years of a licensed program, where they taught what's significant and necessary in your education. But there are still lots of experience that I needed. I fit in pretty well and stumbled around and got things done. But it was difficult. And my working hours were the noon watch, so it's noon to 4, and then again at midnight to 4 a.m. And then every morning at 8 o'clock, I turned to for an additional 4 hours of overtime. So I'd work from 8 o'clock to 1600, and then get the evening off and report back at midnight to 04 a.m. We headed out across the Atlantic through the Med, and by the time we got to Alexandria, Egypt, I was really running ragged. But I had an ace in the hole. Union rules state that overtime is not compulsory. So I could take the day off, but that's only on Saturdays. But since there's no one to fill in my spot, I still had to get approval. And the first, who had been coaching me and giving me pointers and tips, he couldn't understand why I wanted to go up to see the pyramids on Saturday, because that's an overtime day when we get paid a premium time and a half. He said, why don't you go tomorrow on Friday? And that blew my mind. I couldn't understand it. He was offering me to give me a day off with pay. Very nice. So I'm not going to look at gift horse's teeth. I accepted. I said, heck yeah. He wanted to join me. So we went upriver, went to the pyramids, the archaeological museum in Cairo. One of the outstanding things was riding across the dunes, and there's this little Egyptian kid. I have no idea where he came from, but he came up with a couple of cold bottles, icy cold bottles of Coca-Cola. I couldn't believe that. Anyways, had a wonderful time, memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And on the return trip, we were heading back through the Straits of Gibraltar, and our number one generator had a blown turbocharger. And the captain called down and he said, get number one on the line. We cannot head through the Straits without it. So after 14 hours of a day working in these unbearable conditions, I turned to, and everyone else did also. We all had John Wentz back, our first engineer. He took care of us, we took care of him. Being a first engineer, being any leader, you want to make sure the people behind you follow. Treat them well, they will follow. Have a Toastmasters.